All right, review when factoring this. Remember, we want two numbers that multiply to 9 and end up adding to 6. What'd you guys come up with? 3 and 3. Do either of them need to change? No. How would we write our answer to this in factored form? X plus 3, x plus 3. Okay, something I didn't stress earlier was how can I rewrite that? X plus 3, x plus 3. How can I rewrite that? Right. I'm multiplying the same thing by itself. So to write it in a more simplified version, I can write x plus 3 squared. Okay? We are going to work on today completing the square, which is this part. Completing this square. So, back to this example. Completing the square, we had two of the same numbers to create a square. So is there another example? If I had x squared plus 4x plus 10, factor that. I'm going to add on to the end equals 26. Can this be factored? Don't think about the equals 26 right now. Can that left side be factored? No. So how can we make this a little nicer? Is there a number that could work better than 10? Okay. So if I subtract 10 over, I have x squared plus 4x plus equals 16. Is there a number we can put here that's going to make it complete the square? So think. I heard it. Someone said 4. So if I put 4 there, what are two numbers that multiply to 4 that add up to 4? 2 and 2. Do we have to change them? No. So how can I write this? X plus 2 squared, because normally it would be x plus 2, x plus 2. So what you just did was you completed the square. Okay? And then that's equal to 16. Okay? I will get into the last part later. But completing the square, this is what we mean. We're trying to find a number or a polynomial that we can square to complete the square that we had before. Okay? So let's look at this example here. If I had m squared minus 14m plus c, we want to find a value that completes the square. Think about it first. Two numbers that are the same that can add up to 14. 7 and 7. What do they have to be to get to negative 14 though? They would have to be both negative, right? So those two multiplied together, what do they get? 49. So our c, to make this complete the square, is 49. Okay? Because this would turn into x minus 7 squared. Okay, go try number 3. Remember, you want the numbers that are the same. Anyone got one? 13, both positive. Okay, what do they multiply to get? 169. So that is our completing the square. Our c is 169. How did you get 13? And how did we get 7? You divided our b term in half. Okay? So let's look at 5. Let's divide our b term in half. What's our b term? Negative 40, right? Divide that by 2, what do I get? Negative 20. What can I do with negative 20 to find our c term? What? How? Negative 20 times negative 20. What's another way I can write this? To the second power. Yep, negative 20 to the second power. So that's what we're doing with that last step. We're taking negative 20 to the second power. What do you get when you take negative 20 to the second power? 400. So that 400 is our C. So you can think about it how we did at the beginning. Like, okay, I know it's -7, -7. What number do I need to multiply both of those? Or you can think about it this way. I'm dividing my B by 2, and then I'm taking the square of that number to find my C. Okay, go try number 7. Don't go to decimals. I'll give you that hint. Don't go to decimals. Keep them in fractions. So what did you do first? First on number 5. We took our B term divided by 2. So what's our B term on 7? So -3 divided by 2. Is that very nice? No. Leave it in a fraction. Okay, that's my answer right now. What was our last step to find that C term? Multiply it by itself, right? Or take it to the second power. Okay, when you take that exponent to the second power, remember we talked about this way back when with exponents. Okay, you're taking that exponent to the top term and to the bottom term. So what is 3 squared? 9, what's 2 squared? 4. So our C term is 9/4. What's the first thing that you did? Divide by. Yep, take your B term and divide that by 2. That's kind of gross, right? Okay, how can I make this nicer? Dividing fractions is the same thing as what? Multiplying by. So if I rewrite this, I have 1/2 divided by 2. I'm going to treat that as over 1. How can I change this using multiplication? Right, keep, change, flip. If I do 1/2 times 1/2, what does that give us? 1/4. Yep, multiply straight across, we get 1/4. Now, what was my last step to get my C term to complete the square? Square it. Multiply it by itself. What do I get when I square 1/4? Remember, what do I do with that square? It goes to both, but remember, if I take 1 squared, what's 1 squared? 1, and then 4 squared is 16. So our C term to complete the square is 1/16. Number 11. So in the directions, it tells you to use or to solve by completing the square. But first, we would see if we can factor this. Is that factorable? Is there 2 numbers that multiply to 24 that add up to 10? There is, but are 6 and 4 the same number? No, since they want us to complete the square, we need to get rid of this 24 like we did on the other page. How do I get rid of this 24? Add it over to the other side. Yep. So add 24. So we have p squared 10p plus, I'm going to leave a blank because remember we're trying to fill that spot. That's our C spot. Equals 24. Okay, I left this blank because remember we got rid of that 24 so we can get a new number for this spot. Okay, now we have to find our C. How do I find it? What were we doing on the front page? Yep, take your B term, -10 divided by 2, -5, squared, what's -5 squared? 25. That's my new B or C term. But what did you learn way back in elementary? What you do to one side of the equation, what do you have to do? You have to do it to the other. So since we added 25 to this side, we have to add 25 to our other side. What was our perfect square that we found? P, what do I put in there? -5. Yep, P minus 5 squared equals 24 plus 25? 49. Now what's left is to just solve, like you were doing yesterday. How can I solve this to get p by itself? Think here. Yep, from here, from where we're at. How can I get p by itself? Take the square root, right? So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. What's left on the left side after I take the square root? Remember, that goes away, so we're left with p minus 5 equals, what's the square root of 49? 7. What am I missing with that? Yep, positive, negative. Okay. Remember, with quadratic equations, how many solutions are we supposed to have? 2. That's where that positive, negative comes in. Okay. Now, we're going to rewrite as 2 solutions. Okay, I know, this is the last step. So, p minus 5 equals positive 7, and p minus 5 equals negative 7. Add 5 to both sides for both of them. Okay, what do I get for this one over here? Yep, p equals 12, that's one solution. And then what do I get for the other one? P equals negative 2. We just found our 2 solutions by completing the square. So, if directions tell us we want to do it by completing the square, what do we have to get rid of in order to complete the square? We have to get rid of the 1 by adding 1 to both sides. So I have x squared plus 8x. What do I need to do when I rewrite? Leave an open spot equals 1. To help you remember, add a blank spot to both sides. To help you remember that you got to put it on both sides. Okay? Now we need to fill in the blank. How do I fill in the blank? Yep, take your b term, divide by 2. What do you get? 4. What do I do with 4? Square, which is 16. So I put that in both blank spots. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay? Now you're completing the square. How do I write it? Yep, x plus 4 squared equals what? 17. Okay, where is this number always going to come from? The division part, yep. That 4, that spot is always going to be that number. Okay? Now what's our last few steps? Right, we just have to solve. Okay, so how do I solve this? What's the first step? Square root. So we have x plus 4 equals, not so nice, how many variables, or sorry, not variables, decimals do you use? 3. This one didn't come out with 3, so I'm just going to use 4.12. If you use 2 or 3, I'm never going to count you wrong. Okay? And again, why do I have that plus or minus there? Because we need 2 solutions, and whenever you take the square root of something, it should have 2 possible answers. Okay? So finally, what's our last step with this? Treat them as their own. Yep. So we have x plus 4 equals positive 4.12, and x plus 4 equals negative 4.12. Now what do I do on both of those equations? Solve by subtracting 4. What do I get on this first one? Yep, 0.12. There's one solution. And then what do I get on the other? Yep, negative 8.12. Okay, since the directions say to complete the square, what do we have to do first? Yep, we want to get rid of that c term. Subtract 38 on both sides. So we have x squared plus 16x. What do I need to do after that? I need to leave a blank spot. Yep. So I get negative 48. What do I have to do after that? Right, yep. But also leave a blank spot there. Now I need to find my c term by dividing. 16 divided by what? 2 equals 8. How do I find the c term? Square to get 64, and that goes in your both blanks. Okay. Now we're writing it out as completing the square. I have x. What do I put with x? Yep, x plus 8. Remember, it always comes from this number. Squared equals what? Yep, add these together, we get 16. So now it's just solving like you did yesterday. How do we solve? Square root. So I get x plus 8 equals positive negative 4. And then last step. Yep, write them as their own. So we have x plus 8 equals 4. And x plus 8 equals negative 4. After you solved, what did you get for your x values? Yep, x equals negative 4, x equals negative 12. So, if it wants us to complete the square, what do we need to do first? Subtract 65. So we have b squared plus 12b, leave an open spot, equals negative 74, plus open spot. So now we need to find our c. How do I find it? 12 divided by 2 equals 6 squared, 36 on both sides. So now we complete the square. What do I write? It is b. Yep. Equals negative 38, right? So how do we solve this? Square root. So on the left side, I get b plus 6 equals, what do I get on the right side?
Negative 38. Wait. Oh.
Peter, what'd you say?
No solution.
Yep. Why is this one automatically no solution?
Because it gives you an error.
You cannot do this. Okay, whenever you run into this problem, those should be your favorite problems because you can't go any farther. Okay, so this is no solution. If you ever run into that in the middle of a problem, you're done. No solution. Okay? Questions on completing the square?